The number one thing is that there's definitely someone out there who wants to listen to you. I don't care what you do, you have expertise in something that you can offer to people. Even if it's that you're excellent at meal planning, you are really great at budgeting, you know how to create awesome activities to keep your kids busy while you do the dishes. Like, there's so many things that you might say, I'm just a mom, like I'm just a stay-at-home mom. No, like you're basically like a CEO running a household and like an art teacher and a cleaner and a budgeter. Like, you have all these roles that you're fulfilling. So like, which of those do you like to talk about? Like, what's the thing that gets you super excited?
Welcome back. My guest today is Morgan. She is a digital marketing expert with almost 10 years experience in the field. Starting as a blogger, she moved to freelancing and helped dozens of entrepreneurs grow their business online with marketing strategy, email marketing, sales funnels, meta ads, and more. She's also a mom of four, has about 103 hobbies, and lives a low-key life in rural Pennsylvania. Everybody, please welcome Morgan. Hi, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm super excited.
All right, let's talk about your fearless female journey. How did this all begin? Where were you before you became a marketing expert?
Yeah, I feel like my journey has been like super meandering over the course of my life, because where I thought I would be is not even close to where I've ended up. So when I was like in college in my early 20s, I thought I was going to be like Christiane Amanpour, like traveling the world, being a journalist and working for some big like news company, because I was a journalism major in college. But when I got out, I ended up taking a temporary job for the Obama campaign doing political stuff, which never like crossed my mind before, but it just kind of turned out that way. And then that led to me spending pretty much all of my 20s as a social justice organizer. Which is, again, not anywhere near where I'm at right now. And after I kind of had been doing that for a long time, I got married, had a baby. And like most women, that completely changed my life.
Yeah.
The things I was doing before, driving around cities, knocking on doors, being out till midnight, commuting 2 hours to work, it just didn't work for me anymore. And even though I love the idea of what I was doing, it just didn't fit my lifestyle. And I ended up getting fired
Oh my
because
gosh.
I just couldn't do it. I didn't want to let it go, but it was kind of like a blessing in disguise that, it was clear I just wasn't with it anymore.
Yeah.
And luckily I had this intuition that I needed to switch and I needed to do something different after I had my baby. And so I had already been looking into becoming a freelance writer. I thought I was going to write for websites. And I did for a while. I wrote for places like Cafe Mom as a freelancer. I had some articles published on Motherly, because I had that journalism background.
Yeah.
I thought it would be an easy switch. Well, after I did that for a while, I realized, hey, like I could start my own blog and write for myself and start my own business. And so at that point, I decided I'm going to start a mom blog. And that at the time felt like such an important step for me, because I was actually like taking a chance on myself instead of being hired by somebody else, which was a little bit scary.
Yeah.
I also felt like it really fulfilled a need for me personally, because as a new mom, I had so many things that I wanted to talk about and say, but we don't have villages really anymore, right? Like we don't have a community a lot of times as a mom. And the only place that I could find community was online through Facebook and reading articles and blogs from other moms, because I was also like one of my first friends to have a baby. I didn't really have a lot of people to relate to. My mom is also a lot older than me. She had me when she was 42. And so, how things were when she raised me is completely different, and so through writing and blogging, I was really able to start a business, learn a lot about online marketing and online business, but also get to know myself in the process as I transitioned into being a mom.
Yeah. I love that you said, I had to learn more than just blogging, like marketing and all these other things, because I think people don't know the extent of when you decide to do something like a podcast, like a blog, or, a Shopify store, an Etsy store. I think people think, oh, I'm just going to do, a podcast. And it's like, you grab a mic and all of a sudden, your podcast is great. But no, it's a lot of marketing that goes behind your podcast or your blog. You have to do more research than just opening up, I don't even know any blog platforms. I can't think of anything right now and you just type something up. Because that happened to me when I first started in, the online space is, I did an online course to try to teach people how to get out of debt. And I was so excited. It took me months to put it together. And then I put it up there and it's like crickets. Because I didn't build an audience to like, know, and trust me. And I didn't understand that marketing side of your business. And I think so many people think, oh, I'm going to start a blog, or I'm going to start a YouTube channel, or I'm going to start a podcast. And they don't do the research that it takes to create an actually successful blog, podcast, or, marketing store, or whatever it is that they're doing. So talk a little bit about how you learned this aspect of the business.
Yeah, so I DIY'd everything, 100% on my own. Everything I learned through podcasts, I learned through YouTube channels, and just Googling and reading and learning things. And in fact, I actually did make a huge mistake when I started the blog. I was saying that like I used it as a way to talk about motherhood and my feelings and things like that. That was great for me, and I felt like it was a step, but I realized that's not actually the way to create a profitable blog. So what I needed to do, instead of just talking about what I wanted to talk about, was learn how to talk to my audience and what they wanted to talk about. And so that was kind of like my first big aha in marketing, is that it's not about me, it's about the people I'm speaking to. It's about my ideal clients, my ideal audience, customers, etc. And, as I figured that out, I switched to focusing on SEO, which is search engine optimization, basically writing posts where a mom out there needs to know something. She goes to Google, she puts in the keywords she's searching for, the phrases she's searching for, and then my article would pop up.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I really switched from this like personal blog to being a business and looking at it from that strategic marketing perspective. And so through that, I had to learn, I learned SEO. I learned how to create a website. I learned how to start an email list, how to create digital products, courses, all these different pieces that you have to have in place in order to have a marketing strategy. And, a lot of times when you're in like online business or whatever community you're in, you start to make friends, you start to network, whether you intend to or not. You just kind of naturally usually make friends in the space. And that's when people started seeing what I was doing and asking me if I could help them with. And that's when I kind of made the transition to being a marketing expert, being a digital marketer versus being a blogger. Now, I still have my blog. It's still there. I still make like a little bit of passive income from it to this day, 10 years later. But I kind of discovered that my main passion was in the marketing. And I think a lot of times, especially right now, there's a lot of people selling you courses on how to start marketing and how to start a business online. But like you said, it's not until you like put something out and then you hear crickets and you realize, oh, wait, not as easy as I thought it was going to be. It takes a lot of work and, more than anything, persistence, because you might flop right away. Most people will, because you've literally never done it before. But marketing, more than anything, is not about getting it right the first time. It's about doing something, getting some data back, improving it, getting some data back, improving it more. And you continue this process of optimizing and understanding who you're selling to, who your audience is, and being able to speak to them better, create things that they need, and kind of like matching up who you are, what you have to offer, your personality with a business and a client base that kind of comes together as like, I imagine it like a Venn diagram where you've got all these circles, like kind of coming together. And then in the very middle, there's a space where they all converge. And like,
Yes.
that's your business. That's your marketing, is where you, your audience, and what you can offer all kind of come together. And it's a process. A lot of times, most people don't end up where they started.
Mm-mm. Not at all. I started with a podcast and I just wanted to talk, and then people started to listen and then they were starting to reach out and were like, can you coach me? And I'm like, I'm not a coach, but it's just all these different things. It just evolves after a while. But, putting yourself out there is the biggest fear that everyone has to like get past, is just like, okay, just do it. Just put yourself out there and you never know where it's going to take you. Like you didn't know starting a blog was going to take you to becoming a marketing expert. And I love that you said that you took the time to like go on Google, watch YouTubes. And that's the thing, people, you can do this on your own. Like when I started my podcast, like I YouTubed everything. Like, how do you have an RSS file? Like, what do you do? What platform should you do? And I made a lot of mistakes in the beginning too. But now like I have a beautiful podcast that's been up for 4 years and it took me a long time to get to this place, but nobody starts out as an expert. No one does. Everyone starts at ground zero. Everyone is failing and making mistakes in the beginning. And like she said earlier, you adjust what you're putting out. Like she first started with like talking about her personal stuff, and now she's adjusted to like, okay, I realize that that's not what the audience wants. It's what I wanted. And so she adjusted to, customize her message towards the audience and see what the audience is actually Googling and wanting to read about. So that's an impressive way of like really talking about like this industry, because anyone can create anything and actually make money off of it. You'd be surprised that you can make money off of a blog, you can make money off of a podcast, you can make money off of a course, off of books, off of anything. But like she said, it's what does the audience want, not what you want to put out there.
Yeah. And I think it is this like balancing act, because you do have to enjoy what you're doing. Like you have to like the kind of content, the kind of products that you're creating, but it still has to be like for your ideal client or your ideal audience. Like ultimately you're creating it for them. And really like to serve them. Like
Yeah.
this is, I feel like back when I started back in my day, like I'm not that old, but like I kind of feel old enough to say things like that, that we talked a lot about serving our audience. We've come away from that narrative a little bit over time, but that to me is such an important mindset to have when you are deciding to start a business. Because another thing we kind of run into is we're afraid to feel salesy or pushy, things like that. But yet you still have to market, you still have to sell. And when you approach it from this aspect of I'm serving people, it's a lot easier because you feel like you're actually helping them. So, like going backwards, when I was a social justice organizer, I would help people like get higher wages who were in like minimum wage jobs, right? And I never felt like bad or pushy trying to help them with that, because I knew I was serving them and helping them, you know?
Yeah.
And I've had to like bring that frame of mind into the present when I am marketing and selling my services now, that like I am helping my ideal client. And unless you're pretty like tapped in tune with who you're trying to serve, you're not actually going to be able to do that very well.
Yeah. What would you say to a mom who is listening to this podcast episode or watching on YouTube and is like, I have an idea, but I'm just so busy. I have, too many kids or too many responsibilities and I have no energy, and who's going to want to listen to me?
I think there's like a few different things to unpack. The number one thing is that there's definitely someone out there who wants to listen to you. I don't care what you do, you have expertise in something that you can offer to people, even if it's that you're excellent at meal planning, you are really great at budgeting, you know how to create awesome activities to keep your kids busy while you do the dishes. Like there's so many things that you might say, I'm just a mom, like I'm just a stay-at-home mom. No, like you're basically like a CEO running a household, and like an art teacher and a cleaner and a budgeter. Like you have all these roles that you're fulfilling. So like which of those do you like to talk about? Like what's the thing that gets you super excited?
Yeah.
Are you like, do you love baby wearing? And wrapping babies in woven wraps. Like that's an entire YouTube channel right there. Um,
Yeah.
so there's always something for everybody to get into. And then as far as like the literal time, I will say that I want to say I'm not lucky because I feel like every husband should do the things my husband does as far as like helping take care of the kids. Like we really do a partnership where he, he's a parent. He's not a
Yeah.
baby. He's an actual parent. We've 50-50 split the household duties and all of that. And so I do have great support with him, but I know some moms are single moms or just like don't have that amount of support from their partner. And if that's the case, then what works the best for me is figuring out what I can do in like the little in between times. So, for example, TikTok is probably like my main platform right now. And I do all of my engaging on TikTok, all of my planning, thinking through what content I'm going to create, like in the morning when I'm having my coffee and it's just me and my toddler awake. So the house is kind of quiet. Sometimes I'll even record stuff then. And then the second time is when the toddler's having a nap. And it's just the older kids are around and I can like keep them occupied with something. It's finding those in between times to get the stuff done that you need to get done. And I'm not going to say that it doesn't take work because it does. You have to ultimately sacrifice something to get what you want. That could be that in the evenings, instead of like watching a show, you have to do work. It could be instead of like having the nap you'd like to have when your toddler's napping, which I totally understand because I want to do that all the time too. You do the work. But if it's something that you want badly enough, like you'll figure out how to do it. And the way that you also make it feel like you're not sacrificing is by choosing a business that you do actually love and you love talking about. So, don't just make your business about budgeting if you hate budgeting, even if you're good at it. Like if you're passing sourdough bread, that could be your entire business. That could be your entire like YouTube channel, TikTok channel, whatever it is. So if you find, and this is something that I've really been focusing on a lot right now with clients, I'm also launching a business archetype quiz, it's called, where I'm helping people to like match up what their skill set is, what they actually like to do, what their personality is with a marketing business plan that can actually work. And that's where I feel like the magic kind of comes together is when you can match all those things up. Because I know from my experience, anytime I try to push myself into a certain box because I think it's what I quote unquote should do, it just doesn't work because I'm not happy. And if you're not happy with this, it's like you may as well go work a 9 to 5,
I know, exactly. I like that you said that because when I first started, I remember my husband was like, "Well, you're really good at like helping people pay off their debt. You should do that." And my first whole branding was like, raise your credit score and all this other stuff. And I after a while I was like, I don't want to just only talk about raising your credit score, getting out of debt or paying credit cards off or budgeting. And then I had the idea of doing a podcast about because my last boyfriend cheated on me and I wanted to do a podcast about like infidelity and cheating. And then I thought, I don't want to just only talk about that. And I love that you said that because when you pick something, you may be so excited about it at that moment, but you have to think about it. Do you want to talk about this day in, day out forever? Like that's a huge like responsibility. And don't get me wrong, once you go down a path, there's always so much there you can change at any point. Because I rebranded myself, turned off my first podcast, stopped selling my course for getting out of debt. Like you can change, but I love that you said that. Like you started to create this like architect of like what is that makes your soul sing, not just right now in the moment, but like that you can talk about this for a long time.
Yeah, exactly. And I think there's like a big if you watch any type of like marketing or business content on TikTok or Instagram, there's kind of like a debate happening about whether you need to niche down, basically whether you need to be very like narrow in what you offer and what you talk about in your social media or other content. And I think there's arguments to be made on either side. But like I think anything in business and marketing, it really comes down to you and what works for you and your business. Because there's people out there who are not very niche down, who are very broad in what they do, and it works for them. And there's other people who are extremely niche. Okay. Like
Mhm.
some people who the only thing they talk about are things like cosplays for Comic-Con. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
and they're crushing it. So you can make anything work. And for me, I like, you know, in the intro, I said I have like 103 hobbies. It's hard for me to stay focused on one single thing because there's so many things that I want to talk about. And the way that I've kind of gotten around that with my business is that the majority of my content is business and marketing related. But I also think about going back to the idea of who you're talking to and who your ideal client is. Like most of the people that I talk to are women, they're moms, they're in their 30s. Like they're a lot like me because that's naturally who I'm going to probably attract. And so sometimes I do talk about productivity tips for moms. Sometimes I do talk about like how do you reach your goals if you have ADHD? How do you get your mindset right in your business? Because mindset is like 95% of it really. Like I could create the best strategy for you, but like if you don't have the right mindset to stick with it, complete it and feel, you know, confident in yourself, then it's not going to work either. And so there is always a way that even if you do want to be very niche down, you can still implement all different aspects of your personality into that,
Yeah.
you know?
I know. Have that conversation with people in my mastermind all the time about niching down because everyone says the riches are in the niches, and it's just like, okay, but for me, like I always think we are just such vast human beings, and we have so many like things that we can talk about, and so many interests. Like how you said you have 103 hobbies, I probably have about the same. There's so many things that interest me that I'm like, I want to talk about this, and I shouldn't be put in a box. That's the reason why I left corporate, so that I wouldn't be put in a box in a small cubicle. And so I loved that, I decided to be a life coach because I could talk anything that has to do with life. Because when I decided to like break down the debt and the other podcast, I was like, well, I thought about it for a good year. Like, what do I want to talk about and who do I want to talk to? And I love just the journey of everyone else's life because we can learn from one another. I mean, you just listening to you just gives me more inspiration to get on Google and learn about like SEO and metadata and all that stuff because I have been thinking about that, which is so weird that the universe brought this back into my life because I'm like, I have to learn more about how to do this. It is, it's more than just like, hey, I have an idea and this is what I want to do. And in today, and if you're listening, we're not trying to distract you. We're not trying to tell you that it's not going to happen for you. We're going to tell you that it's actually real and people can boom at any moment, at any time, especially with TikTok right now. There's this woman that's doing like a 50-part series of Who That I Marry. Did you hear that? And it's like she is just blowing up. Like overnight, she got 1 million followers overnight. And that's the thing. It's like at any point, one of your videos can go viral. At any point, one of the things that you're doing, or any project that you did or create can still bring you an income. Like you said, your blog is still bringing you an income. Hey, who's going to say no to a couple $100 here and there, right? So just try whatever it is. I love that when people say, like, before there were gatekeepers. You had to find a publishing house to write your book. You had to find a producer to make your movie. You had to find someone who was going to be willing to give you that key up, like a producer or something. Now you could sing your songs on YouTube. You can write your own book and publish through Amazon. You can create your own TV show on YouTube. You can start your own podcast. You don't need to be on a radio station. Like the gatekeepers are gone in today's world, and everybody, like she said earlier, has a gift, has knowledge, has wisdom, has skill sets that you should be sharing with the world. And there is an audience out there. Like she said earlier, there are people who are teaching cosplay and costumes, like the little things that you find, especially on TikTok, like the miniature things that where they're like cooking with like miniature stuff, and
Yeah.
just cleaning videos do really well. Like you would be surprised what does well, and you think no one's going to listen to you, but in reality you have an audience just waiting, yearning for your content.
Yeah. And it's interesting because like I have realized over the course of doing this. So most of the time that I've been in business, I've been like behind the scenes. So most of my clients I got through referrals because, you get a client, you do good work, they refer you. So I never did a lot of marketing of myself and my own business. I would periodically, but really I was focused on other people's businesses. And I have come to understand over the last year or so that like I actually enjoy more of like coaching and
Yeah.
consulting than being behind the scenes. But I will say that like if you're someone that also like I don't want to do TikTok. I don't want to like talk to a camera. That's just not my thing. There's still options for that too. Like you could be a bookkeeper behind the scenes of a business and, get clients through just networking on LinkedIn. There's a path for whatever your skill is. And yeah, I think that creating content to some extent is necessary, but like you can also be strategic in how you're creating content so that it does match your personality
Yeah.
and how comfortable you feel with what you're doing,
Yeah.
like there's no gatekeepers, so there are a million paths to get there now
Yeah.
too.
There's also faceless YouTubes and faceless TikToks where it's just like, the camera is following things around and they're just speaking behind the camera. And even on YouTube, you don't even have to put a voice either. I know I took a course where this guy was like, I can make you millions of dollars on YouTube. And I was just starting off my YouTube channel. So I took his little fake course and not fake because it was real, but like, like not the one where you have to pay like the intro
Yeah.
course before they sell you. And he does videos where he does clips of like basketball, like the top 10 slam dunks. And there is his voice isn't on there. He just puts like some hip hop song behind. And it's like, these are the top 10. And he gets millions and millions of views. And that channel makes him so much money, like 20 to 30 to 40 to $50,000 because YouTube pays on the ads. And he's like, I could teach you how to do this. And I just was like so intrigued because I would never have thought that. And when I first started, like I did podcasting because I didn't want to be on camera. And it took me a long time to like actually get over my insecurities and my fears to finally show my face on camera. But there's so many ways, like you said earlier, you can just ways where you can show up and still show your talents without having to show your face or do videos. There's so many ways. It's just like start asking the questions. How can I do this? And the answers will appear.
Yeah, exactly. And like I kind of said before, that 95% of it is your mindset and is mental because like you said, there are so many different ways to do this. And the only thing really stopping you is yourself. And once you make the decision that, like, no, I'm going to do this and I'm going to keep going until I figure it out and I'm successful, then you will eventually be successful. I've been in this industry for almost a decade. And over the course of that time, I've had a lot of friends who have fallen off and haven't succeeded. And then I have friends who are still in it, who have thriving businesses. And I honestly don't think that the people who succeeded had anything like that special. I mean, they're special, like everybody is special, but they just kept going, is
Yeah.
really what it was. They just kept going and eventually they found the thing that hit for them.
Yeah.
And
People
that was
tell me that to me because like I've had this podcast for over 4 years and they're like, but you're not making any money. And I'm like, but I love what I do. I love my podcast and I don't have the numbers just yet to be able to monetize my podcast, but I'm getting there. There was a time where I was like so excited that I got like 300 downloads on an episode and now I'm getting 1,000 downloads on an episode. So it's like, should I quit because I haven't made it there? No, it's like I feel like I'm 3 feet from gold. I'm like so close to the finish line, but if I quit now, what could have been? You know what I mean? And so that's what I think when my friends tell me, well, you're not making any money or you're not doing, but this is my passion. And eventually, like my passion is going to meet the gold and I just have to keep going. I think people see people at the top and they don't understand the journey that they've been through. Like people see like, Cameron Diaz or Justin Timberlake or whoever, Britney Spears, but they don't see the years of all the time they put, all the work they've put in to get to where they're at. Like I have so many people that I admire, like Mr. Beast, you know, the
Mhm.
Yes Theory channel, YouTube channel, and you think like, oh, they just got here and they're just making millions of dollars. No, it took years. You know, like even your story, you didn't become a marketing expert overnight. Like you did the work and you spent, I don't even know, let's calculate the hours you spent on Google and YouTube and listening to podcasts. Like you can't even calculate how many hours you put in. So it's like people just see the end result and they think, oh, it just happened for them. No, it doesn't happen for us like that. There are a lot of people that are just still climbing the mountain to try to get to the top.
Yeah. And, we were talking earlier about like going viral and how things can happen quickly. You can get like a lot of attention quickly, go viral, something like that. But a lot of times, if you didn't have like a slow burn to get there, if you don't have a foundation before that happened, it can be hard to sustain it. Kind of like people who like win the lottery and then they're like bankrupt within a year because they don't really know how to like handle it, And I
Yeah.
think it's the same thing with your business. Sometimes that slow burn can be such a blessing because then when you do pop off, when you do get to that next level, like you're actually mentally and also just literally with your systems prepared to handle it.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Perfect example about the lotto. Because, yeah, if you're not prepared to handle it, how are you going to be able to like keep it? You know, and again, anyways, as we wrap up this episode, what would be your nugget of wisdom for anyone who is listening on the podcast or watching on YouTube? And if you're watching, make sure you hit subscribe. What would be your nugget of wisdom for anyone who's out there thinking, I have an idea and I really want to do it and I just don't know where to begin?
Oh, I think that number one, I would just pick your favorite social media platform and just start creating content. Or if it's a podcast or if it's YouTube, start creating the content if you have no idea where to start. Because a lot of times you need a little bit of experience to understand the direction you're going. Just like with me and starting my blog and ending up in a completely different place. I still learned so much from starting that blog. And if I would have waited years to be like, oh, I don't know if I have the perfect idea yet or the perfect product or whatever, I would have never learned all the things that I did learn. So I would rather have you just pick something and like jump in, even if it sucks. Like, even if you're terrible at it, you probably will be terrible at it, but that's good. That's part of the process. You're
Mm.
going to learn along the way. I am new to TikTok, for example. And even though I'm a marketing expert, even though like I was in broadcast journalism, getting on and making videos on TikTok felt weird to me. And some of my first videos really did suck. They were not very good. But just a few months later, I have improved so much and I can look back and see my journey, even in that short period of time. You can make huge quantum leaps, but like you're never going to do it unless you get started. So just pick something and get started. Because worst case scenario, you end up pivoting, you end up going on something else and take the lessons that you learned.
Yes. Oh, I love that. Actually, Gary Vee just posted a picture of where he was in the beginning, which was like his first YouTube video, and the lighting is all bad. You could barely see him. He looks really young. It's dark, and he's talking about his wines because that's how he started, and then where Gary Vee is now. And if those of you who don't know, Gary Vee is like the top marketing expert in all social media and makes so much money. And it's like, he's such an inspiration because you see, not everyone starts at the top. So how can my audience find you?
So you can find me. I'm most active on social media on TikTok. I'm also on Instagram at Pleasant View Media. That's the name of my digital marketing agency that I own with my husband. He's a graphic designer. At Pleasant View Media and also pleasantviewmedia.com. And if you want the most up-to-date links, like I'm dropping this business archetype quiz to help you find your archetypes so you can set up a business that's aligned with you. Or if you already have a business, but it feels uncomfy and you want to pivot, it's also great for you. You can go to pleasantviewmedia.com/links, LINKS, and that'll give you all of the most up-to-date like stuff that I have going on.
Oh, perfect. Thank you again for being on the podcast.
Yay. Thank you for having me. This has been so fun.
Thank you again for listening to Journey of a Fearless Female. I'm your host, Paola Rosser. If you're looking for a life coach or a spiritual mentor, You can book a free discovery call with me at www.fearlessfemale.com. You can also follow me on Instagram at fearlessfemale_coach, subscribe to my YouTube channel at fearlessfemale, or find me on TikTok. I'm under at Paola.Rosser. And if you love this episode, make sure you hit subscribe, share it with your friends, and leave a review. I read every single review, and I truly appreciate the time you spend writing it.